This is the G Podcast with your host, Tommy B.
News team, assemble!
It's time for the Week in News with Syracuse Mike.
First, the Williams sisters announced their return to doubles at Wimbledon. Sunday, it was announced that Serena will also return as a singles wildcard at Wimbledon. And fan excitement grows. Clive Davis, the powerful music mogul who helped launch Whitney Houston, Alicia Keys, Bruce Springsteen, and many others, has died. Davis was 94. Although no official cause of death was announced, he was recently hospitalized but sent home earlier this month. The U.S. and Iran are at odds over nuclear inspections as talks continue on a permanent end to the war. Iran says UN inspectors are not scheduled to visit nuclear sites struck by U.S. forces, contradicting comments by Vice President J.D. Vance. President Trump says,
They're wrong. They're wrong. They're wrong. They know they're wrong. They told us inside, and we have it down 100% inspections.
Meanwhile, the UN says efforts are underway to move stranded ships through the Strait of Hormuz, a key global energy route. The Trump administration has scored two major immigration wins at the U.S. Supreme Court. In separate 6-3 rulings, justices cleared the way to end temporary protected status for migrants from Haiti and Syria and revived restrictions on asylum claims at the southern border. Here's Massachusetts Governor and Democrat Maura Healey saying deportation could be next for immigrant families
who fled devastating earthquakes and violence in their own countries.
Meanwhile, Florida has struck down its migrant detention site known as Alligator Alcatraz, saying permanent federal facilities can now handle detentions and deportations. Republican senators reversed course on a measure to limit U.S. military action in Iran after a tense White House meeting with President Trump. Senators Bill Cassidy and Rand Paul have now withdrawn support for the War Powers Resolution, a symbolic vote to end the war. The U.S. launched strikes on Iranian missile, drone, and coastal radar sites Friday, responding to a drone attack on a cargo ship in the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump said that attack violated last week's ceasefire agreement, calling the strikes a direct response as tensions with Iran rise once again.
Thank you, Syracuse Mike, for the news. Welcome back to episode 317 of This is the G Podcast, y'all. Yes. We are your weekly news recap podcast for the culture, where each week we break down the news, politics, pop culture, and all the tea. We're celebrating Black Music Month all month long, and we've been diving deep into the rich history of the Atlanta music scene. And this week I'm joined by my good friend, the legendary DJ Newman. We call him Big Scobe, DJ Scobie, so many nicknames. I met Scobie back in the 80s at Troy University. We went on to be DJ colleagues and fellow members of the iconic $1 Million Record Pool, once owned by the late J.R. Dino. But Scobie wasn't just dominating the clubs, doing mobile DJing and club DJing, late 70s, 80s, 90s, throughout, let's say, Cleveland, some of the cities he'll mention in the interview. He also was a great electrician and technician who built many of these clubs, put the sound systems in a lot of these clubs. So you'll hear him talk about that as well. Man, talented beyond his years. I got to say, thank you so much, DJ Scobie, and here's the interview. Hey, what's up, y'all? It is Black Music Month, and without a doubt, man, I'm revisiting some old friends from back in the day because definitely these guys were in the mix in one of my favorite eras. I've already said that post-disco was probably is my favorite era of music. It's a little bit prior to hip-hop. Of course, I've had, Ray Boyd on from V103 talking about his time, as well as Talib Shabazz, who's part of the show. We're talking about that era. But this guy, you got to give it up for him, man. Clubs. And I got to say this, man, before I even get into the interview with Scobie, Big Scobe, as we used to, he had so many nicknames. I'm going to get them all. But I got to say this dude was like Yoda for myself and the late Harold Banks, who was my partner. He didn't get the name Biggity back then. We just called him Harold, DJ Banks. But he gave us the tip of a lifetime. I don't even know if you remember this. He pulled me aside and he said, y'all sound good, but y'all ain't mixing on meter. You remember that?
Yeah.
He said, y'all are doing a good job, man, but y'all need to learn to mix on meter. And it took me a minute to understand what he was saying, but I'm not gonna lie to you, it revolutionized and changed the way we did DJing going forward, because we were mixing on beat. But when you really are a good DJ, and you can explain this as well, I'd like for you to explain it, Scobie. When you mix on meter, everything's lined up. Phrasing, your counts. Explain what you were telling us back in the day.
Well, a lot of times when DJs were mixing back then, they were just mixing to get two records together. They weren't mixing to get two songs together. And the difference was, when those beats, like you said, with the meters, I metered everything. And you have to come in on the correct measures too, where you don't cut lyrics off, where you're coming in and the timing never throws the dancer.
Yep. And not only that, I mean, it did. And I'm just going to go back and say it revolutionized how I would spin going forward. And I know it helped Harold as well. So I never thanked you for that, but I'm going to give you a kudos now. How about that? Never, better late than never. The other thing, and you may not remember this, and going back, again, Scobie Newman. Scobie, man, thanks for jumping on. We used to play ball. We met Scobie at Troy. And I want you to explain where you came from, your roots in a minute. But I wanted to get these two things out of the way. We used to play ball because we both attended, myself and Banks attended Troy University. It was Troy State back then. And we used to play ball in the gym and Big Scob. How tall are you, man? 6'9", 6'10"?
No, man. Then I was at 6'7", but hell, I think I'm closer to 6'5", man.
That age starts shrinking you. I used to say 6'2", but no longer.
Going backwards, you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you're saying. But back in the day, we used to play ball, and we, Harold and I, all of us were in the gym playing ball, and Scobie was in there playing ball, and Scobie would be playing with some of the guys who played actually on the school team, on Troy State's team. And I just remember Scobie, because I could jump. I had a pretty good vertical jump back in the day. I don't know if you remember this, Scobie. Somebody went under me, and Scobie caught me. It's like with one arm dangling in the air. Because I don't know how I was coming down, like either face first. I don't know how I was going to land, but all of a sudden this arm reached out and grabbed me. So here's this big dude holding me in one arm. I'm trying to recover, but another reason he's on my list as my brother from another mother, Scobie Newman, y'all. Thank you, man. I just want you to I just want to take it down a quick memory lane with those two things before we get started.
I know what you mean. Wright Hall.
Yes, Wright Hall. That was it. And but Scobie, explain to people, how did you? You're originally from Louisville, correct?
Yeah, from Louisville, Kentucky. And what it was my mom moved to Troy, and I went to Atlanta to go to school, and I would go back and forth to Troy. That's how I met. And that's how I met all the guys. See, I would go when I was in Troy. I would go try to find basketball to play. And, I met Carl Hollis and all those boys. They and I told them, I said, man, y'all don't know nothing about basketball. I'm from Louisville, we know basketball, And boy, we all, man, and I raised Darren, Darren Faison, and a couple more of the guys that was growing up in Troy at the time. 2 years younger than me, we brought them along.
Wow.
Darren still got records at Troy State.
Mm-hmm. So true.
Yeah.
I saw him, I think, last homecoming. He shows up at most of the homecomings.
Yeah, he calls me every other week.
Excellent. Good stuff. So let me ask you, man, how did you get involved as a DJ? Because your DJ history, again, we met you at Troy. not only were you playing ball, but you were DJing, doing some DJing parties as well. How did you get involved in DJing, man?
Well, back in the day, here I liked music already. I met these guys from Trinidad, and it just freaked me out because they built all their own speakers, and they were doing parties, around the clubhouses here in Atlanta. That was how I met Virgo George Cox.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I met all those different guys, but then my company that I worked for moved me to Cleveland. And that's where I got my first nightclub DJ job in Cleveland. Man,
and what year was that roughly? Just roughly.
That was 79.
Mm-hmm.
It was in 79. And I went up there, man, and they couldn't mix like we could mix in the South. And boy, I just went up there, man, and I had a ball. They had me on the radio. I'm on the radio doing a Saturday night mix show with Dean Rufus. I'm playing Head.
I know.
Live on the radio. And I didn't know. I ain't know nothing about, yeah.
You know nothing about the FCC.
I knew nothing. Remember we used to talk about that when you were at, when you was at the radio, we used at V103. You used to talk about the radio thing. And I would be messing with Mitch Faulkner and all them boys. Because, Mitch was a Kentucky boy, too.
Yes, yep. Hopkinsville, right?
Yep, Hot Town, yes.
Yep.
And I dealt with all of them, and I was dealing with, when I got back here, I got more into the nightclub business. And that's how I got, to most of the radio guys, like Larry Steele and, oh, man, all those guys. All of them. We had a ball. And
you mentioned Mitch Faulkner. Mitch Faulkner, legend, radio legend. Man. We lost him some years ago.
Yeah.
But definitely well known. Yeah. Go ahead.
And you introduced me to Dino at the $1 Million
J.R. Dino $1 Million Record Pool.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. You introduced me to Dino, and you introduced me to the San Souci, where they were having the DJ contest every week. That's where I met, Mike Pollard. I met Lane Champagne.
Keith Pollard. Was it Keith Pollard?
Keith
Pollard. Yep.
Keith,
legend.
And then Keith Pollard, Lane Champagne, Chocolate. You remember Chocolate? She latched on to me from over there, man. And I met a bunch of DJs that was, in those contests here. And it was just a fun time. It was a fun time. It was before I started working at 131.
Now that's the other thing. You and George worked at 131, correct? Was George there?
George hired me.
Mm-hmm.
I went in and he hired me. He says, we're gonna need another DJ. And I went in. He said, well, and the club was open. He said, well, play some music. He left the DJ booth, left me in there. And I played for about an hour. And he came back, man, and said, well, when can you start? And, the rest, man, me and George, I saw him the other week. I'm still dealing with him and some of the guys at the record pool, man. We're trying to, we need to get, because Bernard, we've been dealing with him and Dino's brother, and I still deal with a few of the guys anyway. Because I took Harold out to lunch, man, the week before he passed away.
Wow. Wow.
And because Harold's son grew up with my son.
Right. Right. That's what I heard from Harold. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So let me ask you, man.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned, and again, from the Troy days, Harold and I and again, I refer to Harold Banks, Biggity Banks. There's a lot of folks knew him. We went 4 years just playing, on campus. and we left campus and we started doing, more mobile. We never really did a lot of the clubs. But can you list some of the clubs? You mentioned 131. Where was 131? And talk about some of the other clubs you worked at while you were in Atlanta, man.
Yeah, 131 was at 131 North Avenue. It was right across from IHOP. Right across from that IHOP. Now, from there, we went out on Campbellton Road, and there was a little club called 200 South that's the owner of 131. He bought that. We changed that club to Scat. And that's where that's why I started managing clubs at Scats. It's a long story, but, I dealt with them at Scats, and then I dealt with the Amvets Post 83 on Campbellton, Club 131 on Campbellton. We started doing stuff for Mr. V's Figure Eight. I still go see Mr. V. He's still around.
Wow. He's still around?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, he's selling used restaurant equipment. And
wow.
I started dealing with Mr. V, man, and we came back out, from there. And it used to be a club, was it Sandcastle? The owner that we had took over the Sandcastle, and they changed that to Rumors. So we were out there for a while. Man, it's just clubs is all over the place.
And let me no, go ahead.
I've been to a lot of cities, man, and no city I've been to could even come close to Atlanta as far as the club scene.
And you're older than I am, Scobie, so I couldn't get into a lot of the clubs. You worked in for a while.
Yeah.
I think we were kind of restricted for a while to the Phoenix because they had an 18+ night. But explain, there are a lot of people who listen to the podcast, watch the podcast who aren't from Atlanta. And I'm glad you mentioned the extensive club scene because something happened that changed everything with the club scenes, but we're not going to get into that yet. But name some of the big clubs. You already mentioned Mr. V's Figure Eight, which was at one point, it dominated the club scene. But name some of the big clubs and really, I want to ask you, man, who were some of the big DJs who you admired back in the day at some of the other clubs as you managed too?
Well, there was Reggie Reg. He was at, who was he at first? I think it was...
was it VIP? Was he a VIP first or was...
It was VIP Atlanta. It was up, the one that was up on not Cheshire Bridge. Oh, I can't remember the name. He was around. He actually...
VIP, Mr. No Request.
I used to mess with him so bad. And then we had...
He had the sign on the door that said no request. Go ahead.
And there was Sensations. We went out to Sensations. Harold and I worked together at Sensations back before they closed. That was one of the biggest clubs in Atlanta. That club was huge. And to go on, man, I mean, we did so many different things. And then my partner, which was Chris Williams, we had G-Town Sounds. We started doing sound for the clubs. And, and for the DJs, we were renting out equipment to the DJs. And we were just doing our thing.
Yeah. So musically, man, you were in the heart of, again, I talk about the post-disco era, that era of music where you had R&B, you had great mixing, people were dancing together on the floor. How do you compare, because I know you still DJ, as a matter of fact, am I correct?
Yeah.
You sent me something the other day. You still do this. How does it compare from back when that period to now?
There's no comparison. Back then, people partied, people danced, people had a great time in these clubs, and the DJs were different. Now, everything's digital. It's like the DJs could care less whether somebody was dancing or not. We cared. We used to even write. We've written up reports about how to sell drinks in the club per the DJ. We did that to the record pool. We talked about things like that. We actually, lived the concept of how to run parties. And we even did that with the street DJs too.
So what's a good example of how to sell drinks? You don't have to give away your trade secrets.
No.
I'm just curious.
It was a thing.
How to get people to drink?
Yes.
Or was it?
You have to flip the dance floor. You can't keep the dance floor all night packed because those people on the dance floor, they're not spending any money. So you flip the dance floor and give the other people that's sitting down a chance to get out and dance. And the ones that's dancing, they're going to go get something to drink once they get off the dance floor. We talked about all kinds of different things of that nature, but other than that, man, I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And we talked a whole bunch of junk.
I heard it all the time. and from Atlanta to Troy, I remember you doing some stuff in Opelika, Alabama.
Man, I was down there with the legends in Alabama. All of them knew me. Starting with Costi McNair.
And Costi, I hear, is still doing his thing.
He's still doing it, man. I go down there right now. We started doing this club in Opelika. And Costi was there like on a Thursday night. So I went one Thursday because I would usually show up on Friday and come back here on Sunday. Well, I showed up that Thursday and I said, well, Costi, you just get on the mic. I'm going to play behind you. So I started playing music. Costi got on the mic. The dance floor was packed and he was jumping and rolling and I was mixing and this Negro stopped talking on the mic and turned around and started watching me. And he's like, man, did you invent turntables? I was like, no, Costi, it's just a concept of what we used to do. Because, man, I remember in Troy, Costi, I've seen him pack out a gym with one speaker, one turntable. And he would talk.
And for those of you who are from the area, Costi was on WBIL radio for years. I don't know if it still exists down there in Tuskegee, but if you've heard the name, I mean, without a doubt, most people, if you live in Alabama during that time period, or you just hung out with somebody who went to a lot of the clubs, Costi was well known and still is. I mean, go ahead, man.
Yes, and then there was what was the other radio station in Montgomery? That's where
Hot was it became Hot? Was it?
Yeah, Hot 105.7. That's where Michael J. It was a bunch of those DJs that I end up knowing down there because I would see them what we call the Chitlin Circuit, in all those little towns, around Montgomery, going all the way down to Florida, and from each coast. And these guys, man, they did, the numbers that they would pull in of the people, it's like they would, these people would come out of the woodwork, come and see these DJs and do these parties. So we had all of that. And then there was a club in Montgomery. That was, what was the name of that club? Because they changed it to the Rose, but it was known as something else.
Was it Top Flight? It wasn't. Was it Top Flight?
It was Top Flight, and Squirrel owned it. And,
okay. Yep.
And man, that's when the Mitch Faulkner and Larry Steele would go down there once a week. They would have They would go down. That's how Larry Steele ended up going. And when he left V103, he went to Montgomery.
Gotcha. Okay.
and he stayed down there for.
So man, you're in Montgomery. You're definitely all over Bama, all over Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
The Atlanta club scene. You're doing 131 with George, and you mentioned VIP with Reggie Reg. For people, I guess, kind of give them the landscape of Atlanta during the hottest period. You mentioned when you talk about clubs. I mean, we talked about on the show prior with myself and Talib. We talked about Mr. V's, Marco's, Cisco's.
Yeah.
Were those clubs happening when you were doing your thing? Were they still happening?
At the time, there was at the one end was Mr. B's, but it was the Golden Horn when I was first down that way. It was called the Golden Horn, and there was a disco called JG's Reflections that was over in the Greenbrier Shopping Center. Then there was Cisco's and Marco's and the Copacabana, which that's what became the AMVETS 83.
Okay.
And if you keep up Hamilton Road, there was Lamar's Regal Room, there was a US Post 3, there was a disco called First Class, and later on it became Lee John's when Lee came, on Hamilton Road. And it's like it was 200 South that was in the plaza that we turned to Scats. Well, that club is Ellery's right now. And Ellery's and Ellery didn't change any of the stuff. We went in there, put all of this brass and black in there. The only thing he did was change some the furniture. But so I got all of the same stuff that we put in there when it was Scats. And that was from 85. We turned it to Scats. And it's
wow.
Yes, man. That had some history.
Wow.
We had history downtown at 131. Then, just like you say, what was the club that was on Peachtree?
Did you do Dion's or Dominique's when they?
Well, see, the first Dion's wasn't downtown. It was on the north side.
Okay.
And then Dominique took over the club I was talking about. It used to be VIP. And it became Dominique's, club. And we dealt with Dominique because, man, I met one of Dominique's brothers at Alabama State playing basketball. His brother John, they call him Pepe. I met him at Alabama State at the Acadon shooting ball. Just, we played ball wherever we could. And we had some guys that could actually play some ball there. But as far as the clubs and stuff, like we came back, I got spoiled on the nightclub thing because my cousin had a club when I was in school. It was downtown Montgomery. And it was called Oscar Gamble's Players Club. And Oscar Gamble was a baseball player. Pro ball player from that area. And we were kin. We were cousins. And I would go there whenever I was in town because they had a crazy Thursday night. I would go there and just watch a DJ. And every place I went, just like I came to a couple of parties that you guys did at Troy, You would DJ.
Yeah, it was back in the day.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun, man. It was a lot of fun because you could do so much.
Yeah,
I mean that's one of the differences because I want to get into the music part of it because things really we were playing more R&B, but you also and I don't think people realize we were talking about the 4 on the floor versus like the house versus more funk and some of the electro. Music that was really hitting big, like you had Planet Rock. That whole beat was dominant in where we were. Where you come in, and I'm just to throw an example, like a Colonel Abrams, it probably wouldn't work.
Well,
in that area, the 4 on the floor, the beats. But go ahead. I do want to talk about the music, the differences, man.
Hey, man
that we dealt with.
When the when disco basically kind of fizzled. It never hit down here. The same thing with house music. I remember the first house music songs that we got that came out of Chicago, and I've had DJs to argue me down that house started in New York. I'm like, no, it did not. We know for
Chicago.
fact, yes, Tracks Records.
I mean, house was Chicago.
Yeah,
but disco, you had
Disco
more
was New
disco,
York.
more
that was
cabaret
yeah.
kind of.
Yeah, it was a whole different sound. It was a whole different sound. And you know, and we went through all of that, but the people like you mentioned Planet Rock, that song is what started the Miami bass music. Remember Luke and all the Miami bass songs?
Absolutely.
Planet Rock started all of that. Well, actually, even before Planet Rock, the white kids that did Kraftwerk.
Oh yeah, Numbers.
Yes, they did Kraftwerk.
Oh yeah, but they did the Trans Europe Express.
That was
they ripped it
Planet
off.
Rock. That's what Africa Symbolic said.
He sped up Trans Europe Express. Yeah.
The same exact song. You know.
Yeah.
And we went forward from there, man, and we ended up and going through the years, you know, Jack the Rapper. That got huge here.
In the ATL. Yep.
A lot of
or by the airport.
BMF met them boys when they first came from Detroit. Knew a whole lot about, you know, what was going on with them. But we kept it on the club scene with them. The rest of that they talk about, we never dealt with that mess. You know.
I got you.
But, you know, Big Meech, brother was cool as a cucumber. Always had been. And that whole Detroit, they had another type of music in Detroit that they were doing. You know,
because Detroit people will argue with you sometimes that house started in Detroit.
No, it didn't.
I've got people.
No, it didn't.
I got people.
Hey,
but you've heard that before, though, right? You've heard it. You've heard them say it.
Yes.
Yeah.
They try to make that claim. No, that house music started in the basements of Chicago. Marshall Jefferson and Frankie Knuckles and all them boys. They were in Chicago. There was one of the DJs that had left New York and was living in Chicago and started doing, you know, house music there. You know, but it was
my guy was always Farley, man.
Oh yeah.
Farley Jackmaster. You know, Farley was the guy for me, you know, in terms of DJs doing house. Hey, but I got to ask you, for that period, and I appreciate you coming on again. You know, Scobie Newman, we called him Big Scobe, DJ Scobie. Thanks for jumping on, man. Black Music Month, we're celebrating, talking music, talking clubs. But I do have to ask you, man, because you came from Cleveland, Louisville, Alabama, Atlanta, all the other areas. One of the things we're talking about is the Atlanta music scene. Musically, what do you think defined Atlanta? When you went to spend in Atlanta during that period, what was necessary? What was required for you?
I'm telling you, in Atlanta was the first actual mixing DJs. The first that I know of, and I've been to a lot of cities, and I've listened. You know, I've been on the West Coast. I've been even in New York. They didn't mix like they did in Atlanta. I've had DJs that were in our record pool that came from New York that swear that they were all that. And I'm looking at them and I'm telling y'all, nah, you're not quite all that. You're all right. But we got DJs down here that are sure enough good. You know?
Yeah, because you mentioned Reggie Reg. Reggie was incredible. Reggie was on top of his game. I never heard him miss a beat. You had who was really good. I don't know if you, I know you know Chico Renfro Jr. Who was doing some really good stuff.
Chico played at Ellery's Saturday night.
So he's still out there.
He's still
Chico
out
was
there.
doing stuff.
Yes.
Back in the day, and he was doing it on the radio. I think he was on KISS doing his thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had, and we were at the Phoenix a lot. You had Daz Wright, the late Daz
Oh,
Wright.
man, Daz, that was my boy. Man, Daz.
Mm-hmm.
Daz came to...
Explain how good was Daz?
Daz was so good, he had all of his stuff written down. He was one of those DJs that he not only mixed meter-wise, measure-wise, but he even did his music by, I don't know enough about music, but his music, man,
the keys.
Yes, different keys.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about that, and then Daz became really, really cool because, I hired Daz at Club Hollywood. We opened Club Hollywood in Buckhead at that time. And it was when we had Stewart. Stewart was in.
Stuart Gardner.
Yeah.
Stuart Gardner, another good one. Stewart was amazing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stewart was incredible.
Yes, and we kind of stole them from the Dixie Dance Kings.
Dan Miller.
Yes. And, man, we just went through, it was a whole bunch of different things that we covered and went through with these people. I even had Dad to come to the Sans Souci. And he said, man, why are you messing around over here with these fake DJs? I was like, dude.
And Daz, let me explain. Daz was, when you saw him, he looked like he was a white boy. He looked like a professor.
Yeah.
He had the big glasses
on. Yes.
He just looked like, some little geeky, nerdy, college guy. And I remember going to the Phoenix, and this was crazy because we would go to the Phoenix and just sit around and watch him, and just listen to him.
Yeah.
And he was one of the nicest guys because you would go up, you could ask him, hey man, because he would, a lot of DJs, and you knew this, they would white label their vinyl. So you couldn't see what they were playing,
right?
Because they didn't want to give away the newer stuff that they had. Because people come in and steal your sets. But Daz was real cool about letting us know, hey, this is it. This, he would hold it up. Just a good guy, man. And we lost him, and I went to his memorial service, man. And he toward the end of his life, it was tough. But man, I think he definitely inspired a lot of people to do, because it was like, man, we come up, and again, we were in college, we're in school,
right?
So we would come up on break and just sit around in amazement. Y'all were good. You doing your thing. You mentioned Reggie Reg. You mentioned all the cats we've been mentioning, man. And you mentioned the mix. I didn't realize Atlanta had that much influence in the mix.
Yeah.
Versus, because you hear more about New York and Shep Pettibone, and well, definitely. I mean, the hip hop DJs weren't really that much into mixing as much as, like a Larry Levan or Shep Pettibone. Some of those guys coming out of New York. But I didn't realize Atlanta was that competitive on the mix side.
Yes, Atlanta was super competitive, man. Like I said, I've gone to Detroit, Chicago, New York, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, and I did my thing out of Cleveland for the longest. And the advantage I had at Cleveland, I could go to Manhattan and go to JNR's Music World. Man, I go back there where the DJ was and spend 2 or 3 hours, come out with about, maybe 20 European disco singles that weren't out anywhere. Only in New York. And I would take that stuff to Cleveland. I had the radio DJs, Dean Rufus, who was the guy, one of them ended up down here, But I had them coming to the club, which was a Ford Togo 2 at the time. They was coming to see what I was playing at the club.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And the boy,
Yeah.
I mean, I was having a ball down there, but I stayed down there to 83 and then moved back here and started at 131 in 84.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Scobie, looking at the future, man, you've already said kind of where we are now. And I don't do parties anymore, but I go to, you know, some events. Because we're kind of stuck into the line dance era.
Oh boy, are we? Line dance and Southern soul.
Yeah, so we're in that era of you know, music. R&B wise, you don't necessarily have the type of R&B we used to mix back in the day.
No.
So what do you think is next? Where do you think this is headed, man? If you had to kind of pull out the crystal ball for DJs or just for people who go, because you know, Talib came up with a good way to frame it. He said we're in the lounge era. We're not in the club era anymore. I mean, what's the future, man? I mean, I don't think, will we ever go back to what we did during that period? Do you think we'll ever go back?
It would take a special effort and a special type of club to do it. You know? It would take opening a dance club. Most of the places that are open now at Ellery's, they dance a lot. And these are older people that's doing this. These are the ones that was dancing back in the day at Mr. V's. You know, I know a lot of people that was, you know, back in the 131 days that goes to Ellery's. And they're still dancing there. But if you go to some of these other places, man, like out of Old National, some of the clubs out there, they just don't dance like they do, you know.
Damn, I mean, who knew Goody Mob? Who knew Goody Mob were going to be prophets, man?
Man,
they don't dance no more. All they do is this. And you know what? As a DJ, man, if you know how it used to be, it's frustrating. Yeah. How do you get through it?
Well, you get through it because, I mean, what I do, man, is I can still look at a crowd and know what they want, and you can get them up if you do that. You know, you just got to know who you're playing for. It's still that kind of thing. You know, you can't. And I have hurt a lot of DJs' feelings by telling them, who are you playing this music for, yourself or them? You know, you're playing for them. You're not playing for you. This is for who you know, you got 300-400 people over there, and they looking at you like you crazy.
So play for your audience, or you play for your people.
Yes.
Yeah.
You gotta be.
So Scobie, man, I appreciate you've been on a lot longer than I asked you to, and I've kind of so, again.
Hey, but you know how we used to.
You know it was gonna be like this.
You know how
it was gonna be like this.
You know how we used to do, man. I'm still hurting behind Mitch and Harold.
Yeah.
And oh man, I've lost so many.
And Dino.
Oh man, Dino. I saw Dino.
You and Dino were you taller? Or was Dino?
Now Dino was actually taller than me. You know.
Yeah, Dino had to be about 6'9".
Yeah. Dino was easily 6'9". Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last time I saw
Dino, J.R. Dino. Yeah. Go ahead.
Last time I saw Dino was on the train. I was going downtown. Wow. He was getting on the train. And I was like, wow.
Hey man, I'm gonna give you a minute. You got any shout outs, Scobie? We're gonna do it old school. You got any shout outs?
Hey, they all go.
Hey,
you know my partner Chris passed away last year.
Yes, that's
you
right.
Know, and
you told us about that.
I'm like, geez, this sucks. It's really.
Yeah, I mean we're right up on as we tape this. You know, we're about a couple of months ahead of where we lost Banks.
Yeah.
You know, about the time, right around the time. Harold, yeah. So, hey, man, I guess you got no shout-outs. So
no.
I got it. I just got to say thank you, man, you know, for taking the time And just over the years, man, thanks for doing your thing. I don't think people realize, again, you know, how impactful you were, because in a lot of cases, there was so much you did behind the scenes to set these clubs up. I mean, you're an engineer, you're an electrician by trade.
Yeah.
You know, you went in with you and your partner, Chris, you guys built a lot of these clubs. You put the sound systems in a lot of these clubs.
Yeah.
So, you know, kudos to all the stuff you've done over the years, man. You've been a great mentor. You taught us meter. So you were Yoda, you know, you were like, 10, maybe 20 times the size of Yoda, but definitely,
man,
you were a Jedi. You were the Jedi. So thank you, sir. Thanks for taking the time in the car. I got to give it to, not only did he do the interview, but he did it in the car for this long, man. Shout out to you and your fam, and just keep doing your thing, man. And, hopefully I'll make it to one of your parties. Thank you again to DJ Scobie for joining me as we wrap up Black Music Month 2026. Man, what a conversation. Memory lane. Oh, yes. But before I sign off, I have a few things to get off my chest. I got to say this. Oprah, we are officially sending you a services no longer needed notice, okay? Between unleashing Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz on the world, man, and now these unnecessary comments claiming Whitney Houston was once high on stage and fell on the stage, we've had enough. A major shout out to Pat Houston of the Houston Estate for pushing back. And Pat, we stand with you. We stand with the estate on this one. Yes, we do. Please, Oprah, stop. Please stop. On a lighter note, if you're looking for a thrill, the new scary flick, Strung, starring Chloe Bailey and Lynn Whitfield, is out now on Peacock. Legendary director. I love this guy, man. Malcolm D. Lee is back collaborating with Tyler Perry in Blumhouse, Jason Blum, or at Blumhouse Productions. And we call them the Ultimate Horror Movies Factory because they crank them out. You don't want to miss this one. Check it out, and I'll be talking about it on the next episode. Finally, big things are on the way, so make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, anywhere you listen to or watch, okay? Turn the notifications on so when you get a new episode, it'll let you know. Also, if you got friends who don't know about us, please make sure you share. Share the podcast with a friend. It don't cost you nothing, y'all. And as always, man, keep it locked. Velvet Frequency Radio is at castropolis.net. Catch Tanya B and the Birdwire every Sunday at 4. And right after that, you can check out our most recent episode. We air the episodes there around 6 o'clock. So smooth vibes and soulful beats are 24/7 at Velvet Frequency Radio. And with that, y'all, episode 317 is in the can. Peace, power to the people. Enjoy your week.
You've been listening to This is the G Podcast. This is the G Podcast is a production of the Castropolis Podcast Network. Thanks for listening.